They told you the worst was the divorce itself, the courtroom, the papers. The moment everything you built together got divided into two smaller, colder lives. They told you that was the bottom. That once you survived that, the recovery would begin and the road would slowly start pointing upward. They were wrong. The worst part comes after. It comes on a random Tuesday night when the apartment is so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat. When you open the refrigerator, not because you're hungry, but because you need something to do with your hands. When you sit down on a couch that used to have another person on it and realize that the silence isn't temporary, that this is your life now, and nobody prepared you for what that actually feels like from the inside. But here's what nobody tells you. That Tuesday night, as unbearable as it feels, is also the first night of something else entirely, something the decline narrative never accounts for. Something that takes weeks or months to name, but that every man who has walked through this eventually recognizes. It's the first night the noise stops. And in the quiet that follows, something begins. Here's what I need you to understand before anything else. What you're carrying right now is not just grief. It's not just loneliness. It's the accumulated weight of years spent managing an emotional environment that was never entirely yours. And most men don't realize how heavy that weight was until the moment it's lifted. Think about what your home actually was toward the end, not in the beginning, not in the years that still had warmth in them, but toward the end, or in the long middle stretch that was quietly difficult even when nothing was visibly broken. Your home was a place where you learned to read the atmosphere the moment you walked through the door, where you checked the temperature of the room before you decided which version of yourself to present, where your silence could be misread, your good mood could feel suspicious, and your need for space could become evidence of something you'd then have to spend 3 days explaining. You were never just coming home. You were arriving at a negotiation, and that negotiation ran constantly, not just during arguments, during dinner, during car rides, during the moments that should have been rest but required a low level of vigilance. You eventually stopped noticing because it became the permanent background frequency of your life. That frequency is exhausting in a way that doesn't show up anywhere. It accumulates slowly, invisibly, the way damage builds behind a wall. You don't see it until something gives way. And by the time the marriage ends, most men are so depleted they can't immediately feel the relief. They just feel hollow. But hollow and empty are not the same thing. Hollow is what comes before something is filled with what actually belongs there. And this is where the real story begins. Not at the courthouse, not at the signing, but in the weeks that follow. When a man wakes up on a morning that has no agenda attached to it and realizes he made it through the night without once bracing for something. When he sits with his coffee and has a thought that is entirely, uncomplicatedly his own. When he eats without performing. When he exists in his own space without calculating the cost of existing exactly as he is. That moment arrives quietly. Most men almost miss how significant it is. But something in them registers it. Something deep and structural shifts. Like a foundation that has been under uneven pressure for years finally finding level ground. And the man sits there in the ordinary silence of his own morning and feels something so unfamiliar it takes him a moment to identify it. Peace, not happiness, not excitement, not the sharp brightness of a good day. Peace, the steady foundational kind that doesn't depend on anyone else's emotional state, the kind that can't be revoked by a comment across the table, or a silence in the car, or a tone of voice that tells you the evening is going to cost you something you don't have left to spend. Just peace, unmanaged, entirely his. And then something else happens. Something the world never sees because it happens too quietly to make a story out of. He starts to remember himself, not all at once. The way light returns after a long time in a dark room. First just edges and shapes, then slowly, detail. He remembers what he actually enjoys, not what he compromised toward, over years of gradual adjustment. The interests he quietly retired because they took time the relationship demanded. The ambitions he kept smaller than they wanted to be because expansion would have shifted a dynamic neither of them could afford to disturb. The opinions he softened, the preferences he traded, the version of himself he slowly minimized to keep the peace that never quite stayed kept. He starts listening to that version again, and what he hears is not a bitter man. That's the thing the world gets wrong about this. When a man chooses solitude after divorce, when he rebuilds slowly and without announcement, the culture reads it as bitterness, as damage, as a man who couldn't cope and withdrew. But that is projection. That is the world's discomfort with a man who has discovered that his own company is not a consolation prize. What this man has found is not the absence of connection. It is the presence of himself. And once you've found that, again, once you've remembered what it sounds like to hear your own thoughts without running them through someone else's potential reaction first, you become quietly, completely protective of it. Not out of fear, not out of anger. With the calm conviction of a man who lost something essential, spent years without it, and finally recovered it in the one place nobody told him to look, inside the silence he used to be afraid of. Now here's what the world sees from the outside, and the gap between what it sees and what is actually happening matters, because if you're in this season right now, the world's interpretation of your life is going to feel like pressure, like something you need to defend or explain, or eventually escape back into partnership to disprove. The world sees a man living alone and calls it failure. It sees him moving at his own pace and calls it stagnation. It sees him rebuilding quietly, deliberately, without performing his progress for anyone, and decides something must be wrong. What it cannot see is the calculation this man has made, not a cold one, a clear one. He has weighed what unbalanced connection costs against what honest solitude offers. He has felt the difference between a home that required him to manage its emotional climate and a home that simply lets him breathe. And he has chosen, with full awareness, to protect the equilibrium he finally found. Not because he has given up on connection, because he now understands something he didn't before. Not all connection is restorative. Some of it is extractive. And a man who spent years being quietly extracted from knows the difference now. He can sense it early, the familiar pull of his own needs beginning to compress to accommodate someone else's louder ones, the slow dimming of his own signal beneath someone else's frequency. And he steps back, with clarity, with self-knowledge, with the understanding that what he has rebuilt inside himself is too valuable to enter an uneven exchange with. His mental calm is not a small thing. To a man who lived without it for years, it is everything. And this is the part of the conversation that matters most, because this is where everything either makes sense or gets misread entirely. This man is not a cautionary tale. He is not evidence that divorce breaks men permanently, or that solitude is a condition requiring correction. He is, in most cases, more self-aware than he has ever been, more honest than he was during the years he was maintaining a partnership that had quietly stopped working, more capable of genuine connection, real connection, because he no longer needs it to feel complete. The peace he has built is not a retreat from life. It is the foundation of his actual life, the life that exists on the other side of years of emotional negotiation, the life that has no performance requirements, the life where his home is not a space he manages, but a space that restores him, where his thoughts are his own again, where his mornings belong entirely to him and carry no weight he didn't choose to carry. This is what the world mislabels as isolation. This is what the decline narrative misses entirely. The divorce did not take his life away. It ended the version of his life that was slowly taking him. And now, most mornings, when the apartment is quiet and the day opens in front of him without condition, he doesn't feel the absence of someone beside him. He feels the return of himself. And that, after everything, turns out to be the thing he needed most. Not a relationship to complete him, himself. Whole. Finally.